This has been a fantastic year for the UK Public Opinion Monitor. There's been an amazing amount of interest in the NGO community and amongst the media in the research we've been doing on public support for development. We were even on an ITV documentary involving Eddie Izzard. I guess the main result that we've had, and also the one that's most worrying, is that only 1 in 5 people feel that they actually know much about development. Of course, that means that all of us need to engage more with the UK public.
So in 2011, knowledge services have increasingly been working on issues to do with climate change, food security and gender, and also malnutrition. And increasingly, the way we do this is working with partners, and we have a number of partners in parts of Africa, South Asia and Latin America, and they help us to make the work we do relevant to policymakers in specific contexts.
I think that with a lot of the civil turmoil, with the crisis in the financial markets, a lot of the changes in educational systems, and even challenges to the family structure, actually there's a huge opportunity for businesses to begin to implement some of the things that they've been challenged on over the last decade. I think that businesses can continue to cooperate with government and civil society to begin to better monitor and evaluate the impact of business activities on development.
Well, the launch of the climate change team at IDS in 2011 has been a really major event. It's really giving the issue the prominence it needs and bringing a lot of focus to it. It brings in lots of colleagues from different teams as well. So we're working with agricultural and social scientists in other parts of the Institute, looking at the future of agriculture under climate change, for example. How will it adapt to climate change, and how will farmers in Africa and other parts of the developing world actually help reduce carbon emissions as well?
I think the Arab revolts really challenge the way we do research on 2 fronts. First of all, it shows that we don't have a sense of the pulse on the street, that we need to think of a broader set of tools, a broader set of methodologies to engage with what is happening, to gauge out the reactions. Secondly, I think it's challenged us to go beyond the disciplinary silos. Obviously, the literature on political culture and how the people have become totally depoliticized is now being challenged. There is more to what's happening on the ground that no one single discipline can give a full perspective on.
Well, the most exciting moment for me personally was having an hour and a half with the entire Indian Planning Commission to talk about infant nutrition. India has been making a lot of progress on economic growth for the last 10 years, but virtually none when it comes to child stunting rates. And I'd written an article in the Hindu, which the head of the Planning Commission had seen and said, come in and talk to us about nutrition. And I had an hour and a half with them, and it was great to be able to get some direct messages from IDS research into the very powerful Planning Commission group.
Last April, CSP, the Centre for Social Protection, convened the conference Social Protection for Social Justice. It convened over 100 people from a range of different backgrounds, including policymakers, practitioners, academics, and researchers. During 3 days of discussion and debate, we pushed the agenda of social protection to include issues of social justice, talking about inequities and inequalities.
Well, some of us are very pleased that IDS has got inequality now much higher on its agenda of research, exploration of policy actions and so forth. Many people think that it doesn't matter. Others think that nothing can be done about inequality. Well, does it matter? We've seen inequality soaring in the last 30 years in many parts of the Western world, in many developing countries, the US, UK, India, China, and many others. Does it matter? More and more research is showing that inequality slows economic growth, high levels of inequality at least, slows poverty reduction, and makes growth much less sustainable. And, of course, it feeds a great sense of injustice.
For me, the key moment for development in 2011 has to be the presence of the BRICS countries at the negotiating table for the outcome document at Busan. Seeing the rise of the BRICS countries and other emerging economies in this new partnership for development confirms that the view from the South is really important. There seems to be a paradigm shift, if you like, where suddenly we're talking about development effectiveness and not aid effectiveness. This is something we're studying here at IDS in the IDS BRICS initiative, looking at Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa and other emerging countries as actors in development. As a Brazilian, personally, it's a really exciting time to be working in development and to see that actually there might be a real paradigm shift.
One of the highlights of 2011 for me was the work that IDS did on the Bellagio initiative. And there are two reasons why I think this was a highlight. First, because I think it's a really interesting example of the work that we can do around our first strategic aim in our strategy, which is to build new relationships. And this Bellagio initiative was very much focused around building structural and substantive relationships between international development actors or institutions and new philanthropic foundations. The second reason I think this is significant is because I think it reflects the direction that development is going. New philanthropists are a major force of giving in the 21st century. In China, we have 200 foundations a year being created, and in Brazil, around $300 million are committed from these new philanthropic organizations. And it's important that we come to terms with that.
I think it's really difficult to talk about 2011 without mentioning the Arab Revolution. This seems to bring to light a whole bunch of issues around development, the kind of issues that middle-income countries might face, the fact that you may have large numbers of poor people. You also have growing numbers of people who are neither poor nor secure, middle class, who are gradually paying more taxes and more likely to get fed up with their government and protest. All in all, it suggests next year might be a much more explosive year in terms of people taking matters into their own hands.